Avdiivka, a name now burned into the memory of military strategists, drone operators, and commanders across the globe. A town that was once just another pin on the Donbass map has become the scene of one of the most catastrophic failures of Russian armored warfare in the entire war. In June 2025, Russian forces attempted to mount a large-scale mechanized push through the outskirts of Avdiivka, deploying 2 entire brigades. It was a rare gamble. Over 100 armored vehicles were committed in a single operation. T-72 tanks, BMP-2 infantry fighting vehicles, MTLBs, and an array of mobile rocket systems, all moved into position under the cover of dawn. But this wasn't 2022 anymore. Ukraine wasn't on its back foot, and Avdiivka was no longer an undefended frontier. It had become a fortress, silent, waiting, and watched. The Ukrainian response wasn't spontaneous. It had been rehearsed. For weeks, intelligence had been mounting. Ukrainian aerial reconnaissance picked up unusual movement of Russian units through the tree belts north of Vodiane and Krasnohorivka. Bayraktar TB2 drones, still quietly circling at altitude, confirmed the massing of armored groups in staging areas west of Spartak. NATO satellite data provided final confirmation. A large push was coming, and it wasn't subtle. Ukraine went to work. Engineers flooded the outer belts of the defense line with new mines, including tilt-rod AT mines and improvised anti-vehicle traps buried beneath hay and topsoil. Observation teams adjusted artillery fire registration tables, locking in every possible path of advance. FPV drone teams, often working from camouflage mobile bunkers, were told to prepare for saturation strikes. Bradleys and Leopards from the 47th Mechanized and Azov's attached armored groups were moved into hull-down positions behind ridge lines and tree lines, keeping clear lines of sight on likely enemy advance corridors without exposing themselves. When the Russian column finally moved on the morning of June 12th, they were confident. Their plan was to punch through the outer Ukrainian belt in a 3-pronged maneuver spread across roughly 4 kilometers. Once they reached the second line, they expected resistance to break, but that confidence evaporated almost immediately. Within minutes, the lead T-72 in the northern axis hit a mine. The tank's nose lifted violently, its track ripped from the hull. Seconds later, a BMP behind it tried to reroute and exploded in a fireball. Another tank swerved into a low ditch, instantly bogged down. In the chaos, the Russian formation began to scatter, losing cohesion. It was exactly what Ukraine had prepared for. Then the drones arrived. Ukrainian FPV suicide drones poured into the air like a swarm of metal hornets. Many were low-cost, custom-built quadcopters outfitted with RPG warheads or heat charges. Operators with VR goggles and laptop controllers navigated them through trees, smoke, and confusion. Each one had a target, and each strike was surgical. One drone dived straight into the engine block of a BMP, causing a secondary explosion that engulfed nearby troops in flames. Another sliced through the hatch of a command MTLB, decapitating the command staff inside. This wasn't just harassment. This was precision-guided annihilation. Russian vehicles attempted to reverse, but the field had been designed for this. Mines were planted not only ahead but behind. Any attempt to retreat activated another chain of blasts. Armored columns that had once stretched across the horizon now broke into flaming segments. Ukrainian artillery, fed real-time data from Bayraktar and commercial surveillance drones, opened up. Shells from Krab's self-propelled guns and M777 howitzers screamed overhead, landing within inches of their targets. Each blast created massive craters, flipping vehicles and scattering infantry. In the south axis, Russian attempts to flank met a similar fate. Ukrainian positions had been rotated days before the assault. Forward trenches were now decoys. Real firing positions had been moved 150 meters back, behind reinforced bunkers equipped with anti-tank missile launchers. Javelin and Stugna P teams opened fire one after another. The thermal signatures of tanks made for easy targeting. Turrets flew into the air, flames poured from hatches, secondary explosions detonated stored ammunition inside the IFVs. By this point, over 40 Russian vehicles were either destroyed or immobilized. But Ukraine wasn't done. The real counterattack was still to come.
From the tree lines northeast of Sivernay, Ukrainian Leopards began to engage. Their 120mm L-55 guns outranged every Russian platform in the field. The Leopards fired in timed volleys, coordinated by drone surveillance. Each shot tore through multiple layers of steel and reactive armor. Even Russia's more modern T-90M tanks couldn't survive sustained Leopard fire. And for every tank that attempted to face the Leopards head-on, there was a Stugna team ready to strike from the flank. Meanwhile, Bradley fighting vehicles swept through the rear lines, engaging infantry formations and providing cover for drone teams to reposition. Their 25mm Bushmaster chain guns shredded any Russian soldier exposed in the open. The sounds of steel being torn apart, men shouting, and ammunition cooking off filled the air for hours.
As the smoke thickened over the battlefield, Ukrainian infantry moved with lethal precision. Camouflaged and coordinated, squads advanced through shattered terrain, using the chaos to their advantage. They exploited gaps in the Russian lines created by the relentless drone strikes and artillery barrages. Each step forward was calculated. A deadly chess game where one misstep could mean annihilation. Russian troops, caught off guard by the unprecedented coordination and technology, struggled to regroup. Commanders barked orders over scrambled radios, attempting to reorganize their battered forces. But Ukrainian counter-snipers and reconnaissance teams systematically dismantled these efforts, taking out key officers and disrupting communication lines. Behind the front lines, logistics became a nightmare for the attackers. Ammunition trucks were prime targets, struck repeatedly by drone-guided missiles and ambushes from hidden anti-tank teams. Fuel supplies were cut off, leaving armored vehicles stranded and vulnerable. Without supplies, even the most formidable machines were reduced to sitting ducks. Meanwhile, electronic warfare units jammed Russian communications and GPS signals, plunging enemy units into disarray. The once overwhelming Russian advance slowed, then stalled, as Ukrainian forces exploited every weakness with ruthless efficiency. Each destroyed vehicle, each fallen soldier, was a testament to the resilience and tactical brilliance of Ukraine's defenders. This battle wasn't just a defense, it was a decisive statement. Despite being outnumbered, outgunned, and under constant pressure, Ukrainian forces demonstrated that superior strategy, technology, and spirit could turn the tide against overwhelming odds. The lines held firm, the assault failed. The cost for Russia was catastrophic. By mid-afternoon, the Russian force had broken. Some units attempted to withdraw through side routes but were quickly targeted by loitering munitions, Lancet-style drones that hovered silently above the battlefield and dropped down at high speed. Others tried to abandon their vehicles and flee on foot through brush or farmland, but even that wasn't safe. Ukrainian quadcopters dropped VOG grenades on clusters of troops. Thermal imaging meant there was no hiding, and in some cases, intercepted Russian radio traffic revealed panic. Whole platoons asking for permission to retreat, some commanders going dark entirely. By sunset, the battlefield looked like something from a previous century. Over 60 confirmed destroyed vehicles lay blackened, some still smoldering. Dozens more were immobilized, riddled with shrapnel, or flipped over in craters. The line of attack that had stretched across 4 kilometers now resembled a scrapyard. Ukrainian forces hadn't just resisted, they'd completely shredded the assault before it reached even the first fallback trench, and still, not a single inch of ground was lost. Russian losses were catastrophic, not just in equipment, but in morale. Aerial footage released later by Ukrainian sources showed columns of tanks still on fire hours after the attack ended. Telegram channels lit up with criticism from Russian mill bloggers, calling it a steel graveyard and the worst armored defeat since Vuhledar. So, why did it happen? The answer lies in doctrine and hubris. Russia tried to wage 1980s-style warfare in a 2025 battlefield. They relied on armored columns, mechanized mass, and presumed superiority in numbers. But the battlefield has changed. Ukraine has fused NATO tactics, real-time ISR feeds, and mass drone warfare into a decentralized, digitized kill network. There are no blind spots, there are no safe zones. Every movement is seen, every formation is mapped, and every column is vulnerable. The battle for Avdiivka showed that the tank, once the symbol of battlefield dominance, has become the largest, slowest target in a field of invisible threats. That a $500 drone can destroy a $3 million machine in seconds. that battlefield superiority is no longer measured in tonnage, but in timing, data, and precision. By June 14th, Russia had not only failed to take a single trench near Avdiivka, they had lost over 100 armored platforms trying. The lines didn't move, the Ukrainians didn't crack. Instead, the fields burned with lethal precision. Camouflaged and coordinated, squads advanced through shattered terrain using the chaos to their advantage. They exploited gaps in the Russian lines created by the relentless drone strikes and artillery barrages. Each step forward was calculated. A deadly chess game where one misstep could mean annihilation. Russian troops, caught off guard by the unprecedented coordination and technology, struggled to regroup. Commanders barked orders over scrambled radios, attempting to reorganize their battered forces. But Ukrainian counter-snipers and reconnaissance teams systematically dismantled these efforts, taking out key officers and disrupting communication lines. Behind the front lines, logistics became a nightmare for the attackers. Ammunition trucks were prime targets, struck repeatedly by drone-guided missiles and ambushes from hidden anti-tank teams. Fuel supplies were cut off, leaving armored vehicles stranded and vulnerable. Without supplies, even the most formidable machines were reduced to sitting ducks. Meanwhile, electronic warfare units jammed Russian communications and GPS signals, plunging enemy units into disarray. The once overwhelming Russian advance slowed, then stalled, as Ukrainian forces exploited every weakness with ruthless efficiency. Each destroyed vehicle, each fallen soldier, was a testament to the resilience and tactical brilliance of Ukraine's defenders. This battle wasn't just a defense, it was a decisive statement. Despite being outnumbered, outgunned, and under constant pressure, Ukrainian forces demonstrated that superior strategy, technology, and spirit could turn the tide against overwhelming odds. The lines held firm, the assault failed. The cost for Russia was catastrophic. This victory is more than a single battle won. It represents a crucial turning point in Ukraine's ongoing fight for sovereignty, dignity, and freedom. It sends a powerful message to the world: stand with those who sacrifice everything for justice and peace. The path ahead remains uncertain and costly, but Ukraine's defenders stand firm, unshaken by overwhelming odds. No force, no matter how large, can extinguish the fire of a people united in their determination to protect their homeland. As the sun sets over the scarred fields of Avdiivka, the spirit of Ukraine burns brighter than ever. It is a testament to resilience, courage, and the unbreakable will to secure a future free from oppression. To those watching, this conflict is more than a distant war. It is a profound story of humanity's struggle for justice and freedom. A story that reminds us all of the true cost of peace and the enduring power of hope.